there's a scale of narcissism, right? I mean, there's kind of little narcissist all the way to narcissist personality, a scale. Can any narcissist be saved? There's some people I saw in these questions kind of like, is there something I can be doing that I'm not doing to fix this?
No. So one thing I want to lift off of everyone today. There is no way as you, who's someone close into this relationship, that can fix this. You're too deep in it. And it is not, and it's also not your role to fix this, right? It's your role to be you, fully you, and not be sort of kept in this position of being their life coach, fixer, therapist. Like, you be you. And that should be enough in a healthy human relationship. But you're definitely not the therapist of someone close to you. And everyone's been trying everything. Maybe if I read their mind, maybe if I could anticipate their needs, maybe if I make myself small, maybe if I don't ever represent a threat, maybe if I just almost make myself not exist, everything will be okay. What else are people supposed to do? And so there has to be some taking of responsibility, because keep in mind too, narcissistic people function quite well in the world in many, many cases. They
Yeah.
are in leadership. They, as the statistic data shows, that they make more money, that they are more successful in dating. They are judged to be more attractive. They're charming. They're confident. They're charismatic. So they're able to keep it together in a variety of settings, at work, in a bunch of other settings. So they have the wherewithal to also roll up and get some help for themselves. Everyone in their purview is having to go get help because we don't know which way is up. They have that capacity too, and they're choosing not to act on it. And basically everyone else is having to act as their emotional support animal. And that's not okay. But in terms of the potential for change I guess the question becomes, and how much is enough? I can say, as a therapist that has worked with a lot of narcissistic clients over the years, have I seen micro changes? Sure. I might see more mindfulness around showing up on the proper time for the therapy session, not asking for last minute changes. Sometimes even being willing to look inward and say, well, it wasn't that nice that I yelled at my girlfriend, but they continue to yell at their girlfriend. So how much does it help said girlfriend if they tell their therapist, like, oh, I shouldn't yell at them, but they're also not controlling that. No matter how many times the work is being done around the empathy, there's a certain disregard, as though, well, she should just accept my apology. I was having a hard day. I said, well, what about her hard day? And so that one-sidedness, we'll get to the inside of the moment. Yeah, I shouldn't have yelled at her, but we don't get the behavioral change of stopping yelling at her.
So many
That's the
people
trick.
I've talked to say like, well, my partner or my father or my mother fits some of the criteria
Yeah.
of a narcissist,
Mhm.
but they do have some empathy, or they're not bad all the time.
Sure.
So I'm confused. And
Right.
is there an overuse of this word? Now, is everybody a narcissist? Or
No.
some people who are narcissistic personality disorder, they supposedly have no empathy, but this
Mhm.
person over here, I've seen them cry at a movie, or I've seen them be kind to so and so. So maybe it is me.
Yeah, so I understand that. So a couple of things you said here. Number one, the overuse of the term. And let's just put a, sort of bright spotlight on that, because that's absolutely happening. Maria, when I got into this work, there was a very rarefied group of us that was doing this kind of work, and that was it. And in fact, even my own mentors in graduate school saying, are you sure, Romany, like this feels like a dead end in your career? And I'm like, I'm interested in it, so let me do the research I want. And so the term is being overused because I think we have a lot of armchair experts who are kind of rolling up into social media and saying, hey, someone was selfish once, and that makes them narcissistic. And that's not how it works. I mean, narcissism is a bunch of stuff, as I lay out in the book, that hangs together. Just like if someone gave you a bag of flour, you wouldn't say, thanks for the cake, right? You need all the stuff. And the process has to happen. That's the cake, right? The narcissism is not just someone who's selfish one afternoon. It's all the things coming together: the lack of empathy, the entitlement, the grandiosity, the arrogance, the excessive need for admiration and validation, all of that happening consistently and across a variety of situations. But then to your other point is the inconsistency. You're like, sometimes it's okay with this person, right? And then a lot of times it's not, and then it's okay. we call that intermittent reinforcement, which is a fancy way of saying exactly what a slot machine does and why it's really hard to walk away from a slot machine. Slot machine intermittently rewards us, right? So every so often, like, oh, a lot of coins come out, and it's all very exciting, or a lot of ding, ding, ding happens. And we're like, oh, I don't want to walk away from this machine because it might pay out bigger. But then we keep putting our money in, nothing happens, nothing happens. In fact, it keeps taking our money. That doesn't feel good. But then it gives us a little bit back, less than what we even put in. But that intermittent reinforcement gets us stuck because we keep waiting for that better day, and we have an attachment to this person, our parent, this person we believe we love, right? So that intermittent quality leads people to wonder, maybe it is me because we did have a nice weekend. We
Yeah.
did have a nice vacation in Hawaii. We actually had sex last week. There's things that make people think like, well, this kind of has a relationshipy feel. But my question to folks is, do you feel psychologically safe here? Do you feel like you could express a need and not be shut down? Do you feel like you can show up like yourself and not be mocked? And you know what folks will say? Well, I don't know. I mean, if I'm lucky and I catch them on a good day, that's not a safe relationship. And
Mm.
that inconsistency is what gets people stuck in narcissistic relationships. That's something we call the trauma bond, that alternating between good and bad and good and bad. And over time, the bad starts definitely overtaking the good. You'll have 90% of the time it's bad, but those 10% good can keep people stuck in there.
Talk
And that's
about
why a
trauma
lot of people
bond.
say, is it
Talk
me?
about a trauma bond. Would you
Mhm.
there was
Yeah.
quite a few questions about that, and you just mentioned it.
Mhm.
And I have to say, for people my age and maybe even younger, many of these terms are in the last couple of years, right? The last maybe 10 years or so. Like, I didn't grow up hearing about a trauma bond.
Mhm.
I
Right.
didn't grow up, I think I was 50 till when I heard about boundaries, or when, or triggering, or even narcissists, right? So it
Mhm.
wasn't, so what is a trauma bond?
Mhm. So a trauma bond is I want to say it's a feeling, it's a sense of connection,
Mm,
an almost unbreakable connection that gets formed in a relationship with a person where there's a lot of inconsistency and chaos and good days and bad days.
mhm.
And with that inconsistency, what ends up happening is there is this, you're sort of holding out for that next good day, right? Because in a trauma bonded relationship, it's a little different with a parent than it would be, for example, in adulthood with a partner. With a parent's the only game in town. So the child has to attach and connect to that parent. They don't have a choice. But if that parent is intermittently available, in, out, sometimes there, sometimes not, sometimes they withhold, sometimes they don't, sometimes they silent treatment, sometimes they don't. And the child is desperately trying to figure out the signal in the noise, like, how do I get this parent to attune? So the child is now attempting to attach, and they're holding out for those good days, and they're taking responsibility for the bad days.
Yeah,
This is my fault. I did this. Maybe I wasn't a good kid today. I should have cleaned up that milk. I shouldn't have yelled at my sister. And then over time, it's just, I'm bad. I'm not good enough. If
right.
I was, then we'd still have those good days because those good days happen. So now the child is holding physiologically this sense of, I'm not good and love is chaos. So now fast forward into adulthood. Now, some people have their first trauma bonded experience in adulthood. Many carry that into adulthood. That same sense of chaos, good days, bad days, they're in, they're out. You sort of feel like you're chasing, then you don't want it, but then they pull you back in. And what people will, and you again, you're attached to this person, you love this person. And what many people say to me, especially when they're years into a narcissistic relationship, is they'll say, you know what? I I intellectually know this is not good for me anymore. Like, I know this is unhealthy. If I saw a friend going through this, I'd be like, what are you doing? But
Yeah,
in the same breath, they say, I literally feel like I'm going to have a panic attack if I were to leave this relationship. That to me screams trauma bond. And then you feel like you're the one-stop shop for this person. You feel like you have to be everything. Their cleaner, their assistant, their cook, their best friend, their therapy. You have to be everything. If you don't meet all those roles, you're not being enough. So there's that piece of it. And then you keep having the same arguments over and over again. They never resolve. But the real ringer on the trauma bond, and a lot of you can self-reflect if you've ever been in one of these relationships, d- dozens of times, hundreds of times over the years with clients, I'll say, you're telling me what this relationship's like. It's clearly hurting you. However, you feel like you can't leave. Can you tell me what you like and what you love about this person? I'll just put that question out there. I just want to know. And invariably, when it's a trauma bonded experience, they'll say, okay, Dr. Romney, give me a second. All right. So let me tell you, this is why I love them. I don't know how to put this into words. It's like it's this, like, I don't know, like that's not an answer. Because when I've asked healthy people, people in healthy relationships, they're like, oh, this is my friend. This is my person. Like, I love them. We spend time. It's just fun. We're attached, connected. Like, we respect each. The answer is much more coherent. That incoherency of that response, like magical, can't quite answer it. That's a trauma bonded answer.